But turning to your book, I love the way you split it into these six sort of key areas to change gears. So you've got goal, time, inside, outside, environment, and resilience. So if we start with goal to begin with, I really like this idea of the narratives that hold you back and the narrative that we tell ourselves. And especially I liked the story when you have a fear of needles. Would you like to expand on that, Grace?
Yeah, so always in my childhood I had a fear of needles, and this was something actually that was really troublesome for me. So when I got my measles, mumps, and rubella injection, I actually fainted, to the point when I used to get blood tests, people would come with me, and I'm ashamed to say actually people still come with me. So I think that I think I haven't outgrown that in some ways. And I remember even being 25 years of age, and a nurse calling my dad to come in and sit with me when I was getting a blood test, because I wanted him to come in. So I sent her out. I was giving her quite a hard time. I didn't want to get the needle in my arm. And there was a nun sitting next to my dad in the waiting room, and she overheard the nurse saying, your daughter really wants you to come in. And the nun said to my dad, you're a terrible father. How could you leave her in there on her own? The poor mite. You should go into her. Really visualizing this 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid who was left on their own. And my dad just said, she's 25. And I think what was kind of a cruel twist of fate then is I ended up getting diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, so juvenile diabetes, just when I turned 30. And when I was diagnosed, my partner Kieran was with me, and I said to the consultant at the time, I'm not going to inject, so just tell me how long I can live, because for me, the quality of life living, having to actually stick needles in myself, would have been so bad. And I think if there's ever any evidence that somebody can change the narratives about themselves, for me, it's my story about diabetes. So within a very short period of time, somebody who was, falling on the floor, exhausted when they were getting a needle, avoiding blood tests, avoiding kind of routine injections, was able to inject themselves. And, I appreciate my story isn't generalizable in the sense that it was actually a matter of life and death. But if people look around them, every day people change narratives about themselves. So, how many smokers do you know who move from a narrative of I am a smoker to I no longer smoke? And how many people do you know who move from, I'm overweight and don't exercise, now I'm somebody who runs 5K every week and I eat healthy? Or how many people do you know who move from a narrative, I'm a workaholic, to I am someone who leaves the phone in the hall and switches off completely, and I have time with my family? And I think if you're holding a narrative with your career that you're not able, that you don't have time, that you're not as good as the people in that you'll never be accepted, I would really love people to challenge those narratives and kind of put in places these steps that actually allow you to become somebody who is the opposite of what you might actually think at the moment, or who becomes the person that you identify as the person that you want to be in your future self, but there's something holding you back, and it's just this psychological narrative that you can't get rid of.
And I think that's really interesting, the whole idea of firstly understanding what your narrative is and then trying to change it. Is that right, Grace?
It's absolutely right. And sometimes you don't even need to have a full understanding of the narrative, only that you need to identify kind of some of these words that you're using to hold yourself back. I'm too lazy, I don't have time, I'm not good enough. And then putting processes in place to prove to yourself, putting these little steps in place to prove to yourself that actually you are able, you do have time, you are good enough. And, I kind of say, if you repeat these steps and you engage in these activities, you're on your tippy toes. I'm not asking you to do anything extreme in this book. This book is really for people who want to kind of keep their comfort blanket on a little bit, who don't want to step too far outside their comfort zone. But if you do these small steps little bit by little bit, when we think about in behavioral science, we talk about the fast brain and the slow brain, and you're really reprogramming this fast brain, which is your automatic pilot, to identify that you now have different habits, and it soon becomes mechanical. And there's something, you step over some behavioral science threshold basically, and you've changed your narrative.